Hi, everyone. I'm Steven Sigman.
And I'm Mike Messinio.
And this is the weekly movie Throwdown, where each week we look at two films that have something in common, try to figure out which one is better. This week, it's a battle of the Spielbergs. We're going to look at what feels like kind of bookend alien films in the career of Steven Spielberg, starting with 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's going to throw down against Disclosure Day, which is a very divisive film in theaters right now. So it's going to be fun to talk about. Before we do you have any wins of the week that you want to shout out, Mike?
I do. A couple of things. I watched a few movies this week. I finally watched How to Make a Killing, which came on streaming, which I liked. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I watched They Will Kill You, which was also fine, not great. And I watched Scream 7, which was not good. I think you definitely need to put a bookend on that, because when they reveal a killer and you don't actually even care, that's a bad sign, and that's how I felt. But what I did like is I just watched the Netflix rom-com that just dropped called Voicemails from Isabel, which you knew that I would watch at some point. I have to say I really enjoyed it. I looked at the runtime and thought this is going to be too long, but it wasn't too long. It was good. I liked it. And it's funny because at one point in the movie, Zoe Dutch's character says that she feels like Meg Ryan. And it's really funny that she says that, because I was thinking to myself that Zoe Dutch might be coming for the Meg Ryan crown of like rom-com queen of this period.
Yeah.
She's been in quite a few. She's very engaging to watch. I mean, she's just very likable on-screen presence. So she may be coming after it. So I thought that was very appropriate.
You think she'd be a good modern day equivalent to Katharine Hepburn? Since we just talked about bringing up Baby in the Philadelphia Story, think she could take that role?
That's an interesting question. I haven't really seen. She definitely got a few screwball elements. It's possible. And I went back to watch some of her older things like Buffaloed and things like that. And in that character, she plays someone who's, pretty can be pretty mean. So yeah, she's got that mean streak in her. It's certainly. That's a good call. I mean,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have said that, why am I drawing a blank? What's her face? It was just in Send Help. Rachel McAdams. Yeah. I would have said that Rachel McAdams could have filled that Katharine Hepburn part. I feel like she can do both of those things as well. But if we're going a little bit younger, then you're probably right. The other thing I watched this week that I wanted to mention is there's a wonderful documentary that Questlove made about Earth, Wind, and Fire that just dropped on HBO. I watched the one he did on Sly Stone, which was also very good. But the Earth, Wind, and Fire one is really good because I just think there's a lot about Maurice White that's kind of a mystery. And this reveals, it talks about his childhood and how it influenced what he ended up creating. How Earth, Wind, and Fire is kind of an extension of his own psyche and his own traumas and things like that. But also just one of the great bands, one of the great runs from like 1977 to 1982 in all of music history. So just a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Nice. That's on HBO.
It is. And it reminded me that when I was a kid, we only had 2 VHS tapes of concerts.
Yeah.
One of them was Billy Joel live from Long Island, which was like the law, I guess. We had to have it.
Was that just like mailed to your house?
Yeah, I think you got it sent automatically in the mail. And the other one was an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert from the Oakland Coliseum from 1980. And I must have watched that concert a million times. I know every beat by heart. It's just one of my all-time favorite things. So it was just cool to go back and revisit some Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That's really fun. I've been meaning to watch that, and I don't have time to do anything, but when I do, that's on my list of things to check out. So I'm very, very excited about it. My wins of the week, I could talk about Widow's Bay, which I started and finished, but everybody's kind of already.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring it up.
To death. Yeah, but I really loved it. I do have one other thing that I want to bring up, and it's kind of a show and tell. It's this film that it's a 4K that I got from Cinematograph, which is a sub-imprint of Vinegar Syndrome. They're one of the big boutique labels that puts out 4Ks. And this is for Shanks. And this is a film from 1974, directed by William Castle, who we talked about on the show with 13 Ghosts and Matinee. And this is his last film. And it's coming off of the success of Rosemary's Baby, which he produced. And he did a couple things in between, but this was sort of his last shot at like mainstream success because he was known as, the gimmick guy, as is portrayed by Lawrence Woolsey in Matinee. And he didn't quite get there with this. So he died shortly after and never really achieved the success, uh, like the respect that he wanted. But this is a kind of crazy film that stars Marcel Marceau as a guy who's basically a Dr. Frankenstein, and he's a puppeteer who turns dead bodies into puppets. It's shocking this didn't have mainstream success. And this is sort of toward the tail end of his success. So it's just these two guys kind of like grasping for that last shot at the brass ring and not quite getting there. But this edition that if you're watching, you can see is just incredibly beautiful. It comes inside of a thick cardboard box in addition to a cloth-bound book with a ton of pages and a really great essay. I've never gotten anything from this imprint before, Cinematograph, and I really, really like it. There's incredible production in it. They focus a lot on kind of auteur-driven stuff from the 60s through the 80s, sort of overlooked things in the canon of American film. So highly recommend it. And, if you don't have a 4K player, I guess you're not going to get it. But if you do, check it out. Just check out their films because they have a handful of really good things that you may have never heard of. And if you're like me, you're just going to buy things that you've never seen or haven't been recommended, but they look cool or have a good title. So Shanks from Cinematograph, highly recommend. Okay, now that that's off the table, let's get into this conversation. I've been really looking forward to this. You and I have sort of a back and forth on Spielberg on the show.
Yep.
And I kind of assume the role of like, he's populist, he's too saccharine, he's not for me. That's all true, but at the end of the day, I still understand how good he is as a filmmaker, and I can recognize that he's essentially had a hand in just about everything I like, whether it's through influence or producing. So it's a bit of a character that I play because I really like Spielberg films, and I have a lot to say about Disclosure Day, so I'm really looking forward to it. We know that you love Spielberg, but you hinted to me that you might have a different take toward Disclosure Day.
Well, not even Disclosure Day, but also Close Encounters, interestingly enough.
Okay.
That's why I was interested to do these, because yes, I love a lot of Spielberg movies. But these are interesting to talk about for me anyway.
Before we get into it, we've never talked about this, but what's your take on Aliens?
Yeah, so that's what this all ties into, I think. That we've had these discussions before. There are some movies that I'm really not a huge fan of in terms of just as a moviegoer. I'm not a huge fan of movies that take place in the desert. I'm not a sand person. I'm not a huge sand guy. That's why Dune, I like Dune enough. It's fine. I don't love Dune. And I've never really been an Alien person. It's not even that I'm skeptical or that I believe or don't believe. That has nothing to do with it. Just purely in terms of entertainment value. I find movies about aliens to either be pretty reductive or just kind of copycatish or dull, to be honest with you. Some of them have moved me. And interestingly enough, I was reading an interview with Spielberg where he said that he hadn't really been moved by any movie about aliens since Close Encounters until he watched Arrival. And Arrival is one of the few movies about aliens that I truly loved. There was something about that movie that really, really got to me. And I liked Contact quite a bit too. I guess I like the existential idea of things. I like both of those movies. But obviously, I don't think that Arrival exists without Close Encounters. I mean, we're well aware of the trajectory of these things. Uh, but yeah, I've never been a huge alien movie person. What about you?
I kind of fall into the same camp, and that it's interesting. All of the ones that you mentioned that you like are ones that fall into this theory I've been developing since I saw Disclosure Day. This is a pretty divisive film. And what I've realized is that a lot of the criticism I hear about it comes from younger people who maybe don't have that experience with Spielberg like you and I have. Um, and I was trying to think about like, there's a lot of like, okay, boomer kind of stuff around Disclosure Day. And I was trying to think about what is it that makes people see that in this film. And what I came to realize, and this theory that I've been working on is, alien films kind of started around 1950 in the atomic age. It's post Cold War. It's all like paranoia about foreign entities. And for the most part, it's about that fear. And when the aliens come to Earth, you have to protect yourself against them or attack them, or, they're going to deplete your resources or put you in some kind of enslavement. But Spielberg is open to like a benevolent kind of relationship with aliens. And it's hopeful. And it's like, hey, let's do this. Come on down. Let's make contact. I don't think you're going to blow me up or anything. And I wonder if that, which is such an outlier, except for the films that you just talked about, those are all about that kind of same feeling. And I wonder if, younger people who grew up with Independence Day and all of these other things where aliens are kind of inherently the bad guy, that made them cynical about the topic, and they're not open to the sort of hopefulness that Spielberg has around it.
Yeah, I mean that's a big theory and a big question, and I think that in this moment right now, I do think that our younger generations are more cynical to all like aliens in general, whether they be extraterrestrial or not. I just think there's this
Yeah.
real almost pushback against the other right now, which has kind of had a resurgence. Where I think you're right in the 60s, 70s. I mean, not the 50s necessarily, which is why those were like B movies about aliens coming to murder us. But when you get towards this, the late 60s and 70s, you start to get this more hippie-ish idea of a togetherness, which starts to come around. And I think it very much is of that generation, where this peace and love idea, but even about aliens and about everyone, starts to come up, and you start seeing that reflected in the movies. And I think that in the past 20 years, or maybe starting with Independence Day, who's to say, we're getting back to a more paranoid, less open feeling about these kinds of things. So yeah, and that is what I want to talk about with Spielberg and his alien movies in general. War of the Worlds notwithstanding, which was very much a departure for him, which is why I think I like that one probably best of all. I don't know why. Maybe the Tom Cruise of it all, hard to say, but yes, Spielberg's alien movies are when he is at his most sappy, like his most hopeful. I think that all of your criticisms of what you say about Spielberg are most evident in his movies about aliens. And that's for better or worse. You can like it or not like it, but he is at his most overtly kind of sentimental when he's making these kinds of movies.
Yeah, I kind of tipped my hand here a little bit, but I watched Close Encounters and I kind of hated it. I really did not like this film. Now, on the other end of that, I watched Disclosure Day and I really, really enjoyed it. So all of the criticisms that everybody has, I don't know. I mean, it has that same hopefulness as Close Encounters, but it actually is more of a 70s feel in kind of the like parallax view of it all than Close Encounters has, which I found really fascinating.
See,
But
you and I are on the same page, I think, with this.
okay, is that your pick going in? You think Disclosure Day is the better film?
Yeah, so if we're going to get into it right out of the gate, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Close Encounters. I've, again, because maybe just because I've always been slightly cynical, I don't know. But the whole Close Encounters thing to me, like that feeling behind it, never really resonated with me. And it's a few things. It's my not loving alien movies necessarily, and I find that Close Encounters is almost a sister movie to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like these movies that are technically beautiful, they are incredibly influential, and they set a template that many other people have followed. But in my opinion, as far as movies go, they are boring as hell. Like
Yeah,
I just
I'm with
don't
you.
I cannot. I'm sorry. I can't get into them. And part of that may be that if you had seen these movies in the 70s on a big screen, it may have been one of the most moving things you've ever seen. I think that I am willing to give that argument as well. I think that both of these movies would benefit from being seen on a really large screen because just enveloping yourself. I mean, the last 30 minutes of Close Encounters, if you see that on a big screen, I mean, that probably was revolutionary in the 70s. And just like 2001: A Space Odyssey. But now, that stuff doesn't hit the same way. It's just a lot of exposition and just a lot of you should be in awe of this as we show it to you, and it's like I'm not. I'm sorry. Like I'm just not. I'm not feeling you. It's so it just falls flat.
Yeah, I don't think it holds up. I'd only seen it one time before, so I had kind of a vague memory of it, but it it was so boring and really incoherent as a story. I don't think there were. I mean, I guess we'll just jump into talking about Close Encounters because that's the first one. But I think the story is secondary to the light show, and it really suffers for that because I don't feel like there's really any character development. A little bit with the Dreyfus character and Roy, but other than him, I mean, poor Terry Garr. Like, what does she get to do? Uh, Melinda Dillon, who is kind of, I see her and Richard Dreyfuss as a piece with Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt in the new film. If you overlap these two, there's a lot that kind of lines up, but they're also very different. And I just find Close Encounters. I mean, the lead of the film is basically sidelined for the entire last third of the film. There's nothing, and I didn't
And
get it.
and the truth is, if that's the vehicle through which the movie's being told, I mean, this character, he's not a very sympathetic or even likable character. I
Right.
guess you're supposed to believe that seeing something that transformative would have such a profound effect on you that it would shake up your entire world. But even Spielberg has admitted this. I think this is very true. It's like that is very much a movie written by someone in their 20s. I think it doesn't grapple with some of the bigger picture things. And I read something where he had said that if he had written that movie later on, he would never have had Roy just leave his family.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think to someone who wasn't married and didn't have kids or anything, he didn't have any feeling about that. And maybe coming from a family whose parents were divorced as well, like maybe he just didn't it didn't resonate with him in that way. It wouldn't make any difference to him. And later on, yeah, he said that he wouldn't necessarily have done it that way. And I understand these stories, but the choices that made in that movie are someone who was very much a true believer, someone who couldn't imagine someone not choosing to go after the awe of aliens and just wanting you to feel that. And your mileage on the movie is kind of how you feel about that. And I didn't feel much about it. And I didn't really care about Roy, and his journey, for whichever one there is, didn't really move me.
Right. Yeah, I expected to be really into it. And, there's the train tracks, like the actual contact, which is fascinating. The end, for better or worse, is kind of a spectacle. And that's interesting to watch. But everything in between that, I mean, I guess building the thing in the house, the tower, there are little moments that are really kind of interesting that could coalesce into something bigger, but all the space in between those is kind of empty, and you don't feel for Richard Dreyfuss's character necessarily. There aren't any stakes for him, nobody's chasing him, nobody's I mean, I guess there's a little bit of government involvement, but it's not like anybody other than flying a helicopter around him when he's climbing the
Yeah.
tower.
And they capitulate pretty quickly. They're like, all
Yeah.
right, fine.
Yeah.
Just that much cloak and dagger about the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's really just a matter of getting them to that final set piece and having him watch in all, kind of like the audience is while it happens. And that's it. I don't understand why the people who were selected to go on the mission with the
Right.
aliens.
They did have really nice red jumpsuits. I mean, that was nice. I mean,
Yeah,
I might
and
have signed up just for the
sunglasses.
red jumpsuit. That was pretty cool.
Sure.
But they all, yeah, they're all like faceless, like bureaucratic, stone faced people. There's nothing about that we even really understand. Um, yeah, yeah, I said the rest of the story is almost peripheral to just yeah, they wanted to give you the awe and wanted you to feel that. Like if that doesn't, and if it doesn't work for you, the rest of the movie kind of falls apart. I will say though, and I could be wrong, you could correct me, but as far as I know, I mean, Spielberg hasn't written many screenplays, but he gets credit for writing Close Encounters, and he also wrote, for all intents and purposes, Disclosure Day. I mean, he ends up getting David Koepp to write the screenplay, because that's his guy now. But I think that Spielberg basically gave him most of the story and just had him fill it in.
Yeah.
And this, of course, brings the question of, do we like Steven Spielberg as a screenwriter? I'm not sure that I do. I don't know, because again, it's like when he's writing this stuff, especially with the alien stuff, it's his most. I almost think he's too close to it to really give himself the distance to write a strong story.
Yeah. The thing that's been making the rounds is that he wrote a 50-page story and handed it over to Koepp to turn it into a screenplay. And he wrote it on an iPad. That feels like an insane person if he did that. But yeah, he wrote a 50-page story, handed it over. And he did co-write Close Encounters with Hal Barnwood, who also, by the way, wrote Bingo Long. That we did. And Jerry Belson. So yeah, maybe it's the same thing where he had the story and passed it on to them to write, turn it into a screenplay. But it's a good question. Is he a writer? Is he the one you want translating it to the screen?
And we've had this discussion before where, I mean, at least I've said this many times before, where there are movies that you really like and there are movies that you appreciate. And look, Close Encounters is a movie I 100% appreciate. I appreciate his meticulous care in making it. I think it is visually wonderful to look at. I think that there are scenes in it that are truly breathtaking. You can see all the things that Spielberg is becoming in that moment, where you could argue that, you know, Jaws is Jaws, but Close Encounters is really where Spielberg shows you his bag of tricks and what he really can accomplish as a filmmaker. And I appreciate all of those things. I recognize them. I tell you all the movies that Close Encounters influenced, all the filmmakers. I know all of these things. It doesn't mean I actually like this movie. I could write about it. I could break it apart. I could point out all the little things that make it great, but it doesn't mean it was fun for me or enjoyable to watch.
You are summing up my experience with almost every Steven Spielberg film. That's amazing. Yeah. Although I have to say, after Disclosure Day, I feel like I've softened a little bit and I started to go back and I want to kind of revisit some of this stuff. And I mean, I love Lincoln, the 21st century stuff I find really interesting. Most people
of course,
don't.
I was blown away by Munich. I still think Munich is a shocking movie to me in how good it really is. But let's put it this way. You know, E.T. is a great example of something you could probably juxtapose with Close Encounters, because to me, they feel very similar in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that feel similar in his worldview about aliens and the people who are looking after them. But the difference is that E.T. is told from a kid's perspective, which I think helps a lot. I mean, first of all, it's written better. I mean, it's written by a better screenwriter, first of all. We will start with that. But taking the feeling of awe about aliens and putting it into the eyes of a child changes everything. That perspective shift allows you to feel slightly different about it. Whereas with Close Encounters, it may be a similar idea, but told through the eyes of a grown man who you may or may not necessarily take to. It feels different. There's just a difference in how that is presented to you. and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm speaking for me personally, but I think that is the difference in why I keep Close Encounters kind of at arm's length. And E.T., because it's childlike, it makes you see it from a bit of a more childlike perspective. And it makes it easier to go down.
I agree with you completely. And I think that carries over a little bit to Emily Blunt's character in Disclosure Day. She's more of like the Elliot approach to what's happening to her, kind of leaning into it and being amazed by it and figuring it out as it goes, versus being a crazy person like Roy is in Close Encounters. So she almost has like that childlike wonder, almost like she was kind of, when the incident happened, that you go back and see, she was kind of like stuck in that moment, almost like a traumatic moment. And then when it's kind of unlocked, that's who she becomes. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's what makes Disclosure Day a little more interesting to me, is that it is that perspective. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I showed my son, we watched Close Encounters, and we got about 40 minutes into it, and he was bored to death. He was really bored, and I couldn't argue with him. So I pulled the plug on it, but we went to go see Disclosure Day in the movies, and he very much loved it. He really liked it. And again, I don't know if that's just the watching it at home versus watching on the big screen. I think that does have something to do with it. But yeah, I just think he thought Disclosure Day moved faster. It was the the kind of conspiracy-ness of the whole thing. Just made it move a little faster, even though they were both essentially the same length as well. And that is really interesting. And maybe that's the difference between getting a really strong screenwriter to write it as opposed to him writing most of it himself, that they're the same length, like 225, and yet Disclosure Day never really feels slow. I mean, it moves at a pretty accelerated pace, like a chase thriller.
Yeah, absolutely. And Close Encounters kind of comes to a screeching halt, so that you can look at the spectacle of it, which I enjoyed too. I mean, I really liked in that moment. I think technically, so I'm thinking like in 1977, Star Wars came out that year. So there was kind of like these two things were sort of together in creating these effects that would, that was like the first time they were really seen, and they're going to be what dictates how effects work for everything going forward. So thinking of it in that sense, I really appreciated it. And the other thing that I really appreciated as I was watching it was in the scene where he makes contact in his truck and the mailboxes are shaking and the lights are happening. And I just kept thinking, there are people off camera who are shaking all of those things, like physically, and probably having the best time. Like that really appealed to me, thinking about, a grip or something shaking a mailbox. I really, really had fun imagining what that would have been like. But other than that, it's kind of like, ugh, I actually feel bad saying this stuff because I don't want to, dismiss Spielberg, but that's the point of why we're doing this week, is that it's kind of rare to get a director who makes a very similar story about the same subject 50 years apart in his career.
Yes.
So we're really getting a chance to see how he grew, how his ideas changed. And I mean, ultimately, the ideas, maybe not so much. I mean, he's still a little hopeful, and
It
kind of
is.
has
It
that
is surprising
same
how after
approach.
50 years, he still very much comes at it with the same sense of awe that he did when he was in his 20s. I think that very much comes through. And as I said, your mileage on that will vary. You'll either really like it for that reason, or you'll really dislike it for that reason. But he has not changed in that regard.
It seems like most people don't like it. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe, well, we'll talk about it more when we get into that. But um, I don't even want to linger too much on Close Encounters, because it seems like neither of us really enjoyed it all that much.
Now,
But
if you want to
I,
get the breakdowns of it and you want to really get into all of it, there's so much about Close Encounters where people smarter than us break down all the reasons it's great, and you can go through all those. The sense of wonder they had seeing it when they were kids in the 70s, and that's fine. But yeah, at the end of the day, and this is always what I talk about when we talk about this stuff. It's like I don't watch movies as a critic or as a as a film professor. You watch them as a moviegoer. It's like, do you enjoy them or do you not enjoy them? Like that's really all it comes down to. And in this regard, yeah, this is a movie I particularly enjoy. It's just not it's not my thing. If I had seen both these movies at the same time, if I'd seen this in Star Wars in '77, it would have been no contest. I mean, clearly Star Wars is what I would have liked then and what I like now.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they both came out at the same time, and
Isn't it? Two movies that changed basically everything about movies going forward happened at the same time.
yeah. Well, I think Lucas is a lot like Spielberg in that he's kind of
Mm,
this hopeful, like sort of saccharine guy, and his films are like that. And I mean, but I think there's a reason The Empire Strikes Back is so beloved because it's darker. But I think ultimately he and Spielberg are kind of the two guys in that group who were kind of like the goody two shoes guys, it seems, because he's hanging out with Coppola, De Palma. Uh, I can't think of who else was in that group, but of everybody, those two are like kind of the nerdy do-gooders, it seems, and their
yeah,
films sort of represent that.
very
So,
much.
yeah, it's just very interesting, and like they haven't changed all that much
Not really.
with their approach to it. All right, so let's jump into talking about this closure day. Where'd you land with it? Because it's so divisive.
Absolutely. I haven't had more people. I mean, everyone knows I watch a lot of movies, and no one wants to talk to me about them. Some people will bring them up, but most people. But I had more people come up to ask me my opinion about Disclosure Day. It was very strange. People wanted to talk about it. They wanted to know what I thought. They were curious because most of them did not like it, and they wanted to know what I thought about it. And and that's where I kind of fell on this idea that yeah, it's just this very sappy way that Spielberg approaches aliens, which I don't think hits the same way in this day and age to a younger generation. Um, and also, what I found myself thinking was, if you take Close Encounters and you add the X Files, you get Disclosure Day. Like that's kind of like I couldn't like that was my equation that I just couldn't shake as I was watching it. And I think that the influence of X Files is what makes Disclosure Day better than Close Encounters. There's just that
Okay.
whiff of conspiracy, that kind of eerie, otherworldly kind of feel to it, which is very X Files ish, and that that is probably why I liked it more. So
Yeah,
so
I didn't
so it's
think.
not that there's a. I mean, X Files is a very cynical show. Let's be clear. It's a very cynical show. It's a very Gen X kind of type of show. I'll grant that. And clearly, we've established Spielberg is not that. But just the whiff of it paints Disclosure Day just a little bit darker.
Yeah. Were the people who talked to you about it Gen Xers or were they younger
No,
people?
definitely younger
No.
than me.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that is yeah, definitely what I was getting from that.
there's such a divide, and it's really interesting. I mean,
But again, my 11-year-old son liked it, and maybe that's because he's just young. Like he's not cynical or not cynical yet. He just kind of took it
right.
at face value as what it is, and he was fine with it. But yeah, what people have problems with, even the fact that after 50 years, the aliens are still little green men with big eyes,
Yeah.
like those kinds of things seem to rub people the wrong way, which was very surprising to me. I'm not really sure what else you want them to look like. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's still our main idea of what aliens are, and maybe you and I just take that at face value, but just to a different generation, they just think that's tired, and so they don't want to see that. They want to see something else.
I can understand that. I guess that makes sense. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, I mean, did aliens evolve in 50 or like a 100 years or whatever since they've been in the discussion? Like I don't know.
I'm not
It,
sure.
it's I just find, the criticisms of this film criticisms for the sake of critiquing it. And I guess it sounds like because your son was open to it, there's a window. There's a window of cynicism.
Yeah, there might be.
And, I think most people I've talked to who are our age, with the exception of friend of the show, Garrett Gooch, who absolutely hated this film and said it was Spielberg's worst ever.
Worst ever. Wow. He did watch
Yeah.
1941, right? That's really that's a
Perhaps I'm
bold statement.
paraphrasing. Yeah, he would know about 1941. I don't think he would make that claim, but it's up there for him. And but for the most part, people kind of get it, and the criticism is this cynicism, and
Well,
you were going to spoil it a
let
little
me
bit.
throw
So
this at you. Because this made me laugh because this reminded me when we talked about Trap that someone actually told me, they asked me if it was supposed to be a comedy. Like people, and they said the people in the theater actually were laughing at certain points, but they found it kind of absurd. They think that this open, wide-eyed kind of non-cynical way of looking at all this was almost funny, and I think that was kind of shocking to me. Like, I have to say, like, I consider myself a very cynical person, and yet maybe I've been conditioned from all of these Spielberg movies to just not feel that way when I was watching this. I didn't get that feeling. Nothing made me want to laugh. The only part that made me roll my eyes, I will say, is that in this day and age, every single person in the entire world would be watching the exact same thing, and not one person or channel would be like, this is fake, or this is BS, or this is like, no one had a negative thing to say about it or a debunking claim. Like, everyone was just watching it with the same awe that Spielberg would be watching it, right? Like, that was the only moment that I rolled my eyes at.
well, I think that's where people have a problem. And the thing is, what I've read that, I mean, we just sound like old men on the show, but what I've read that younger people are upset about is that it's left ambiguous, where, it ends on a certain word. I'm not going to say what it is, but what do you make of that? And people who are younger, I think, don't want to be forced to think about what the possibilities are there. And so they want to be told what's next, like what happens the next day.
See, I don't know. I think that's an interesting take on your part. I don't know, because so many more movies now end ambiguously than it ever have before. Don't you think? I always say, like, my father hates modern movies because half of them don't end at all. It's like my father would have hated Disclosure Day, right? Like, let's just get that out of the way. Like, he is the kind of person that needs definitive endings to everything. And I think there's so many more open-ended movies now than there used to be. And most people don't seem to have an issue with that. But with this particular movie, people seem to have an issue with it. So I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to say. Is it just this movie, the way it was done? Is it the subject matter that makes people angrier that it seems ambiguous? I don't know.
Is it that, I mean, there are flaws in this film. I can go through plenty of them, but the thing that I think also feels like okay boomer about it, and you're right, like, is the next day that it's all weaponized and debunked and like
Right.
claimed to be fake.
The sequel to this movie could be War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Or it could be like many other alien conspiracy movies that we've seen where people don't believe it at all. There's all these things that could happen. I think that's what's fun about it. Disclosure Day almost ends in a way where you could choose your own adventure and then pick up your preferred alien movie after this movie and watch it and feel like, yeah, that seems good.
Yeah.
At least that's how I saw
interesting.
it.
Yeah, I like that. I wonder if, so there's just really quickly, most people know what Close Encounters is about. This is about a guy who gets secrets from a place called Wardex, and they have the only way I remember that is I think of Jack Ward and the letter X. That's how I remember it, because I'm very old. But they have video footage of everything from the Roswell landing to all of these classified documents of alien life. And Josh O'Connor's character wants to disclose that to everyone all at once. Where the problem is, I think, and why another part of why people might think Spielberg is a little out of touch is that how do you take something and disclose it to everyone in 2026 at the same time? And even when you see everybody kind of like stopping to look at this, they're not sharing the experience. They're all on their phones, like experiencing this individually, which is how we experience things now. So does that even matter? Is that like full disclosure in a way that's going to rally the world to come together? Because kind of a hokey subplot here is that North Korea is on the brink of basically firing nukes at America,
Yeah.
and everybody freaks out about it. And that's there, I think, to show you that Disclosure Day is such an important event that it's going to interrupt that and everybody's going to watch it. But are they? I don't know. I mean, is Disclosure Day interesting enough to enough people that they would turn off or like stop watching World War III about to happen? I mean, we're at a point where they're going and like pillaging rest stops to get bottled water and do all this stuff because they're panicked over this. Even though they don't show a lot about it, I think they could do a little more to ramp up the importance of the North Korea thing. But yeah, is this Disclosure Day that riveting and that imperative that everybody's going to watch it?
Yeah, it's to me, this is where my cynicism comes in again, where it's just like, I can't accept that all of these random news channels now that cover stuff, there wouldn't be some that want to spin it to their own agenda, whether they believe it or don't believe it or what they want to say about it. They wouldn't just present it to you with no comments or as something just awe-inspiring. There would be terrible people, there's terrible actors. There always are, and that's just a part of how it would be. And I know you don't have time to get into that necessarily, but that made it a little less believable where someone would be crapping on it. Or even someone in the subway would just be like, this is a lie. You know, like someone would say something for whatever the reason.
It's Antifa.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, not to get into a whole thing about it, but these past couple of years or this past decade has really convinced me that we've never made contact with aliens. Like I was always of a belief that we could have, and now I firmly believe that we have not. And the reason for that is we've let so many yahoos into the government now that there's no possible way that we wouldn't know by now if there was contact. There's no way. Like, it would be out. Someone would be talking about it in a podcast right now. Like, there's so many streams of information and so many, let's just say, intelligently challenged people, you know, in all facets of things now, that there's no way it wouldn't come out. And so the fact that it hasn't come out is proof to me. Think about it. Like, less than 6 months ago, there was the whole thing where the president talked about they were going to release all the UFO files. We haven't talked about that at all. Why? Because there's nothing to talk about. Like, if there was something concrete, there's no possible way that we would not have found out about it by now.
Well,
but hang on. I will say, though, that what this movie did, which was really smart, is the way they presented it as it went from the government to a private company for that reason, because the government could not be trusted. So it went underground to a private company who was in charge of protecting it. That, I think, was a wonderful script trick to try to show us why we wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But I'm still not convinced. Sorry.
Well, what I was going to say is that, because I'm kind of into this stuff, I have to admit. So I'm sort of paying attention to it.
I'd love to hear that. That's my theory.
What was released most recently was a very small percentage of what's been documented by the government. And I'm not getting into conspiracy theories or anything here, but what they've released says basically that they're not confirming or denying anything, essentially. Like there's no definitive evidence. There's no definitive, like, yes, we've encountered this. It's like, oh, we can't authenticate this, which kind of absolves them and leaves it a little ambiguous. Who knows? I don't know. All I know is I'm like Team Spielberg on this. I saw an interview with him on CBS Sunday Morning, and he's like, "Why haven't I been like contacted yet? I'm the guy. I'm the one who wants to be
It's
contacted
true. If
by
I
these
were him, I
dudes."
would feel the same way. No one has done more to promote the idea of alien life. He's got to get a contact. That's why
Yeah.
someone said, "Well, who would you want to be the ambassador?" It's like me. Of course, he would say that. What do you think? Like the former president or somebody else? Like, come on. The only person who could possibly do it other than him is like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, the only other person would remotely deserve it. Come on.
Yeah. But I'm with them. I'm all for it. Like I don't want to enslave anyone. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to be enslaved. I just want to be pals. Like, come talk to me, aliens. I'm good for it.
Well, we've discussed
So
my
I get it.
feelings about Terminator influencing my feelings about robots, but To Serve Man, the Twilight Zone episode, probably influenced me more about aliens than anything I've ever seen.
That's fair.
And I showed it to my son a couple of
I-
years ago when he was like 9. It scared him to death. It's like it was the scariest thing he'd ever
Yeah.
seen. Like it was. It's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I get it. I get that. Uh, Talking about that sort of government mistrust thing here is that's the thing that I think makes this so interesting and makes it a lot like The Conversation or something from the 70s, and that like, you know, alien films inherently, as I mentioned, sort of are born out of paranoia from the 50s. And the government conspiracy aspect is sort of born out of paranoia from the 70s, like a post Nixon era. So you put those two things together, and I think it's super fascinating. I think that they work so well to make a really interesting story of like full blown paranoia. But Spielberg sort of quells that by not having the aliens be the villains in that way. So it's just the government, or it's just Vortex, which I think is interesting. And you know, the Kep's script is so much more solid than anything that was in Close Encounters. I mean, it's an actual story.
We'll say though, my wife, who I don't mention this podcast a lot, but she watched a lot of movies and she's knows what she knows. I actually trust her opinion on lots of these things. She thought the screenplay was pretty poor. She felt like the dialogue was a little too a little too elementary in terms of how it like explained everything once it got
Yeah.
going. And I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I see it and I can understand her critique. But another person said the same thing to me, which is why I'll take it in the heart. But again, I didn't necessarily feel that way. Maybe because I just come from watching Close Encounters that it just in comparing the two. But I do get the critique, but I don't necessarily feel that way 100%. But she definitely felt like the screenplay could have been stronger.
I think it could have been stronger as well. I appreciate bringing the like the government paranoia to the alien story and the way that Spielberg wants to tell it.
But I will also say, right, so like you said, I think that that's why I say to you that you know Spielberg, this is Spielberg's story. It's possible that Kep wrote a slightly different screenplay, but Spielberg wanted certain things to be said and certain beats that he wanted in the movie and put in there, which all comes right back around to our feeling like, is Spielberg a good screenwriter? I don't know. I feel like the flaws in the movie are probably Spielberg's. Because I don't necessarily think a professional screenwriter like David Kep, who's written a ton of great movies, I mean, we don't have to name them all, but wouldn't necessarily write such an
Kimmy
elementary.
that we talked about.
I'm sorry, what?
He wrote Kimmy, which we talked about.
Right, exactly. I don't think he'd write such an
show.
elementary script unless Spielberg told him to.
Also wrote Snake Eyes, though, with Nicolas Cage.
Point taken. It
ends with a hurricane at a casino, so...
Hang on, though. But from what we were told, that's what De Palma wanted. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
So again, maybe kept just constantly like changing his screenplays to whatever the director wants. It keeps messing them up. So maybe that's
like these
that's
damn
what he's doing.
Directors. Why don't they listen to me? That's pretty funny. Yeah, there are a lot of problems in the script, and a big one for me is that. So the breakdown is that much like in Close Encounters, there are two people affected by this: Josh O'Connor, the Daniel character, and Emily Blunt, the Margaret character. And we go on to learn that they have a connection from childhood. She's sort of the heart element, and he's kind of the head element. He's a mathematician, um, by all accounts, with being touched by aliens, possibly the best one ever. I don't know. But we never get to see him use these skills. You see her using her heart-led skills all the time. So the thing that I think about with this script is, do we need Josh O'Connor at all? It is really Emily Blunt's film, so do we need him? And to that point, the overt religious elements of this I found super distracting, and that leads me to the other question: do we need Jane, his girlfriend, with whom he has zero chemistry? Because
You
I
know,
think that whole side of it,
that
get it
is,
out of there.
see, that's really interesting you say that, because I was going to say to you that the reason I was okay with his character is because I liked her character, not necessarily their chemistry together, which I agree. But Eve Houston is actually a better actress. Like, every time I see her, any subsequent thing I've seen her in, I think she's a better actress than before. I think she's really improving. So I like her in terms of presence, but I think that the added element for religion, because again, it's like Spielberg, wants you to believe, and the biggest question is, the religious pushback against aliens, and so I think he wanted to directly address that, which is something he never got to address in Close Encounters.
Yeah.
And so I think he very much wanted to put that out there. And so, yeah, it's a little heavy-handed, 100%. But I get it. I know why it was necessary to put it in a movie in this day and age right now. But I think that the character of Jane, I think her knowing that she was a former nun and kind of watching her grapple with all of this was actually very fascinating to me. Matter of fact, I would have liked to see more of that and less of him. I would have enjoyed seeing her deal with all of this in a way. I thought that was an interesting subplot. So I don't agree with you on that one necessarily.
I think both of them are great actors, and but I think they could be better used in this. I don't know. She kind of disappears for a long time throughout the middle of the film, and I mean, as soon as she gets the little alien technology from him, that she's going to come around and be the one at the end who kind of saves the day. But other than that, like, do you even need that? I don't know. I mean, I guess she's a good device for Colin Firth's character Scanlon to sort of infiltrate, but I just think that entire story, like, I don't need it. I'm so focused on Emily Blunt, who is unbelievably good in this, that's all I want to see.
Yeah, I
I just
agree.
had such a good time watching her.
Well, so let's talk about the Scanlon of it all. I mean, that was a little cartoon villainy for me. It was a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was Colin Firth was really chewing up some scenery in that one. That was a little different than what I'm used to seeing him do.
So another interesting thing is I talked about, like, kind of two sides of the same coin with, and like he's the head, she's the heart. I think another relationship that's very similar to that is the Scanlon character and Hugo. I feel like they're both sort of these orchestrators. Actually, that's another thing that you can kind of overlay with Close Encounters. I mean, Francois Truffaut is who is who Spielberg casts to orchestrate this entire thing at the end. And I think that Scanlon and especially Hugo in this film kind of take that role on. And this isn't my thing, but I heard somebody talk about how if you look at Hugo's played by Coleman Domingo. If you look at his attire, it's exactly like all the clothes that Spielberg wears. So he's almost like a surrogate for Spielberg, directing these people in Margaret and Daniel to find these things from their past so that they can move forward with this plan. But I just found that really interesting. But I think he and Scanlon are kind of like two sides of the same coin in that way.
That's true.
And what's also interesting is Scanlon feels like he's cartoonish, but he feels like a Spielberg villain in that in the end, he's probably not even that bad. Like, it seems like he's motivated by the loss of his wife, And when disclosure's about to happen, he kind of turns on his goon and is just like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
watch.
that's another thing. So when people say that it's almost comical, it probably is moments like that the whole movie
It
is him
is.
so determined, and then at the very end he just sits in a chair. He's like, "All right, you got me. Just go ahead."
Well,
You know,
but the thing
it's
is, you learn that he's motivated by losing his partner. And so maybe what Emily Blunt is able to bring to him is kind of like closure, and it allows him to sort of open himself up again, or maybe like turn down his temper a little bit, and because I think that he and Hugo are like the Joker and Batman in a way, like they kind of need each other to keep going, and they were colleagues for such a long time, and yeah, I don't know, I kind of, it does feel a little hokey that Scanlon would just resign like that, but I kind of like it.
third act is like a black light for you as a human. Like how you take that, I think almost says more about you than it does about the movie. Because there are so many things in that third act that could make your eyes roll so hard out of your head they'll fall to the floor. Like, I mean, honestly, we won't even get into it. We don't want to spoil the whole ending, but it's like there's just beat after beat. You're like, oh, geez, they're gonna wheel out the whole thing, and okay, so it really tests you.
Yeah, I'm happy to know that what it says about me is that I'm more hopeful than I imagined I
Exactly.
was.
You're not quite the dark-hearted soul that you think you are. That's what it says.
Disappointing, I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not as dark as I thought I was. Uh, one thing I want to point out is that this another thing is like everything is very overt with Spielberg, and I guess kept in the screenplay to the point where it begins and ends with the camera. Essentially, at the end, you have Emily Blunt saying this word to the audience watching her newscast. The beginning, you're in the POV of a wrestler being beaten, so the camera's getting thrown around. Uh, it's so overt there that it's uh, there's a red wrestler and a blue wrestler. That's how they're listed in the credits. And so the red and blue are fighting. And I think it's such an overt commentary on America that kind of sets the tone for the film that I don't love. But I do like that you're brought in through being like the point of view of the character, and then you're ending with being in the film, basically. Like you're brought in and then you stay in. So I do like that about it, even if things like red and blue are so kind of hokey.
Well, speaking of the beginning, though, watching the beginning of this movie made me think that Spielberg should direct a wrestling movie next. That was exhilarating.
Yeah,
That
he
was
was
some
good
really
at it,
good
right?
like in-ring camera work. That stuff was good.
Like a full movie of that throwing down against Snake Eyes, because that's all that boxing. I think that would be an incredible throwdown to have. Um, like I said, Josh O'Connor, I love the guy. I think he's really good. Is he underutilized here? I think so. I don't get a lot out of him. And like, I mean, to the point where I said, I don't even think we need him. But Emily Blunt, on the other hand, and this is kind of like the notices she's getting across the board, is that she's just lights out and really, really good. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I can't think of a better performance from her. Can you? Like maybe the Pain Hustlers?
I mean, I think that she's the reason that the A Quiet Place works. Honestly, like I think that's an excellent movie only because of her.
Yeah.
So it might be on par with that for me.
Okay.
But you're
I
right, and she's having a great year. I mean, between this and The Devil Wears Prada too. I mean, she's having a really good year.
very different roles. That's the thing, is I think she's been in a lot of things like that. And now she really gets a chance to sort of like show what she can do as an actor in this. She's incredibly funny. I mean, the scene in the train where which is all pianos, which I thought was like a really cool
Yeah.
thing with these pianos hanging from the train car. I mean, she's very emotional in that, and she's so easygoing with all of this stuff, and like just kind of along for the ride, doesn't know what's happening or why, but she's just going with it, and she just handles it so well. I really really love that. But yeah, she is definitely the heart of this, and just incredibly good. Coleman Domingo as well, I think is just always good in so many different kinds of roles.
Yeah, he's just yeah, just one of those people that you really like seeing on screen. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of watched him in I watched the end of Euphoria because I felt like I had no choice. Like I'd already invested
Yeah,
my time trying to get to the end of
I
it. And
know.
he was yeah, he was probably the best part of season 3. So
Laura's watching the 4 seasons, and I watched one episode and I saw him and I'm like, is that even him? I've never seen him in a role like that. And he's just so loose and like funny. And yeah, that guy can really do anything. He's so good and incredibly ubiquitous right now. Like you said, Euphoria, this 4 seasons. I think he has like 1 or 2 more movies coming out this year. So he's really just kind of all over the place. Uh, we talked about Eve Hewson. She's fine. I just want to shout out Courtney Grace, who plays the newscaster at the end, who's reacting in real time to all of the disclosure videos. She is a former newscaster who's transitioned into acting, and she kind of like Emily Blunt, she's getting a lot of accolades across the board. Really, really good at reacting to what she's seeing and keeping it as professional as she can as a newscaster. I thought that was just an incredible performance and a lot of a weight to carry on her shoulders in that moment. So really
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Trying to narrate something like that in the moment and not have it be completely ridiculous or uh too showy to kind of take away from what's happening to make it feel real and in the moment. Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, she does incredibly well. Um, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, let's compare these films head to head. I'm actually kind of excited about that.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Um, the stories are clearly night and day. I mean, there almost is no real story to Close Encounters, whereas Disclosure Day, for as hokey as it is, has a pretty interesting story, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
And the characters, again, zero development in in Close Encounters, uh, minimal development in Disclosure Day, but Emily Blunt has a lot of development, and I think that's on its own is enough to give it a leg up on Close Encounters. Okay. What about tone and consistency? Which one do you feel does a better job at keeping the tone
So
clear
that
here?
that is something I have to say about Close Encounters. And when I was reading stuff about it and watching some things, and people talked about how the characterization of people and his family felt very real for the 70s.
Yeah, yeah,
Just kind of like the chaos of that. And I don't disagree. I mean, we're close enough to that where, yeah, I mean, things never felt particularly easygoing or clean. Things were always pretty loud and messy.
yeah.
Um,
Very
but
chaotic.
yeah, but with that being said, it definitely throws the tone all over the place. I mean, Close Encounters tone is kind of, you have these moments of just serene watching of the skies with just this chaos of like domestic disintegration. It's very jarring. Even now,
Yeah.
it feels very jarring. So for that reason alone, I mean, tone and consistency got to go out the window.
Yeah, and then it just comes to a screeching halt at the end for like 25 minutes. So it really is like throwing the emergency brake on the highway. Like it just you get whiplash from it. And man, shout out to that little kid in the background of those domestic scenes. In the first one, he's banging that baby doll on the cradle, and then he's
Yeah,
playing the piano in the next one. That kid is
it's a
just
lot.
like a chaos agent.
Hang on. One other shout out I wanted to say, and I didn't even notice this at first. My son noticed this, that the guy who talks about seeing Bigfoot
Yeah.
in Close Encounters, that's the old man from Home Alone. That's the same. That's the same actor who plays the scary
I
old
didn't
guy
even know
from
that.
Home Alone. Yeah, he noticed
No
it
kidding.
immediately.
Wow. That's amazing. Y- Your son needs to come on the show. I mean, he clearly has an eye for cinema,
I think he
you
does. It was
know?
pretty surprising because yeah, then when you looked at him closely, you realized yeah, it's absolutely him. So I don't know many things he's been in, but he's been in two big ones.
Yeah. Oh, it's all he needs, really. I mean, he's set forever. Yeah, I'm with you on this. I think Disclosure Day has ups and downs too. But for the most part, it's kind of like this steady chase the whole time. And I think aside from a few sort of like stops on the road along the way, and until the end, it kind of keeps going. I mean, it's very much like Close Encounters in that way, but not as abrupt of an ending and not as like up and down as it is. But uh, yeah, I still think Disclosure Day is the better of the two.
And now that we're talking about both these together, it's interesting how Close Encounters ends with this great reveal and this sense of awe, but for a very small group of people who have isolated it and kind of put it in the middle of nowhere for just themselves. And of course, Disclosure Day is the exact opposite of that, where it's almost like after 50 years, he's giving you the idea that this is something that everyone should now be a part of, as opposed to then when it's a much smaller world. Which I just think that's an interesting idea.
Well, I guess you do have a little bit of a government conspiracy in Close Encounters because they do a press conference and the guy says, "Well, there are like a billion photographs taken every year, and we don't have like a single definitive shot of this stuff." So there's a little bit of like,
I
you
love that.
know,
That reminded me there was a basketball player years ago who talked about how he didn't believe in certain things because he wasn't there to see them. And it's just like that's how you gauge history, whether you were personally there to witness it. That's really gonna close your circle
well,
of history,
yeah,
I'm telling you.
boy, not a lot of things happened in the world for that guy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He doesn't believe in a lot.
That's so fascinating. Who could think something like that in this day and age? I mean,
It was pretty great.
or
It was
or
really
would
good.
more people think that now because so many things are manufactured? I guess there's an argument for that too.
I think in 10 years, I think that's true. I think more people may be saying that because it will be so hard to know what is real and what's not real.
There was an episode of The Town last week where they talked about viral marketing, and there was a lot of viral marketing around Michael, where people would take pictures of themselves in front of billboards. One woman stood up in the theater and like danced, and somebody recorded it. And they feel like honest moments, but the way they actually work is the studio marketing team hires an outside marketing team. That team goes to Discord and looks for everyday people to pay to create these moments, and then it filters back up to the studio. So basically almost everything you're seeing, they said, is like completely manufactured like that, even when it looks genuine. So 10
I
years.
didn't think I could become any more cynical about the Michael movie, and you just somehow made it even worse. Like I thought I was as far to the end of that as I could possibly be, and you found another level. Now I'm beyond disgusted by the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that happened for Disclosure Day too. It's the way it works now. So, I, I think about obsession and all of the seemingly genuine moments around that, and I wonder, how much of that is this kind of like going into Discord and finding people. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, you're just never going to know in 10 years. Like you just can't believe anything. I mean, and that kind of speaks to the film, right? Like what you're saying about where it could go the next day. Like people will say, I don't believe it. And yeah, maybe that's the follow up. Uh, Cultural staying power and iconic scenes.
I mean,
This,
this is an easy one,
yeah,
obviously. I mean,
yeah,
Close Encounters is considered one of the most iconic movies. I think it's in the top 100 greatest movies of all time. Um, I do not agree, but
I don't either.
I but it is, and people love it. They talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean there's the music, the song, there's the spectacle of the lights, there's this means something. I remember Jim Carrey doing that somewhere. Like
Yeah,
saying that about something. And so, that's lasted 50 years. Is Disclosure Day going to last 50 years? I mean, I think the cultural impact it has is the divisiveness, and that'll go away in the near future. So I can't imagine that's going to be,
Yeah,
stick
there's a
around.
much bigger conversation in this that we're not going to have now, and maybe someone will have it down the road. But yeah, putting out that Alien movie in '77 versus putting out this Alien movie in 2026, and how we respond to it, and in a way, again, like what it says about us as opposed to what it says about the movies, because it shows that Spielberg hasn't necessarily changed all that much, but have we, in a way where uh, we can no longer not only not be in awe together, we can't agree together, we can't necessarily see these things in the same way anymore. Or is it just not as good a movie? I mean, I don't know. I feel like all this will shake out in the course of a couple of years, but I do really think that uh, it's a nice way to look at us and where we stand with
Yeah.
these two movies at the time they've come out.
And I think Close Encounters has the advantage of really being like first to market with all of the effects. So it's going to cement itself because of that. Whereas Disclosure Day, outside of Emily Blunt's performance, I don't think there's anything all that memorable that I'm going to think about in 10 years. But, if she doesn't have an Oscar by then, I'm going to think like, why did she not have an Oscar for Disclosure Day? But yeah, that's really it. Uh, all right. Well, those are our head-to-head comparison questions. I just think there's a lot of overlap on these two films, and that's what makes it interesting to look at the two of them because, as I said, it just seems like Spielberg didn't change his ideas. His filmmaking, you see it's almost like the technology caught up to him because what you see in Close Encounters is a filmmaker who has a vision, and I mean he's able to pull it off. But when you look at Disclosure Day and like the train scene, the train chase, amazing. You look at just a lot of the camera work, the way we didn't even mention this, but Josh O'Connor, he, all of these Ward X agents pull up to this farmhouse to raid it. He consistently hides behind an open fence where he's clearly visible and is able to walk behind them and get into this car. But the camera work in that moment is incredible because it circles around the car, goes in through an open door when he gets in it. There are a lot of little flourishes like that show you that Spielberg really it is the master. I mean,
Yeah,
his
I
camera work.
I think you make a great point with that, and again, that's what looking at these movies 50 years apart says. In '77, the work being done in that, not only from Spielberg, the director, but the cinematographer, it was so different that it was very noticeable. Now Spielberg's been so good at this for so long that those are things that you may not even notice in watching Disclosure Day. Like you just expect all of this stuff to be perfect, right? It's almost taken for granted because he's been doing it for so long. But you're right. There is so isn't from the opening shot with the wrestling match, like the camera work and the visuals of this movie are really fantastic, but you almost don't clock it.
Yeah, and the DP is Janice Kaminsky, who works on almost all of Spielberg's stuff. So I think the two of them have a shorthand, and really, he gets what Spielberg wants to do. And it's almost like the world, in a technical way, caught up to Spielberg, but in like a social way from the discourse, maybe like he hasn't caught up to the world yet. I guess
That's a good one. That's a good point.
I was thinking a lot about the thing for me with him is like he's so nostalgic for the 50s. He's so nostalgic for like a time past. Is Disclosure Day him being nostalgic for himself? Has he gone so far that his nostalgia is for his own work now?
It's
That's what it
certainly
feels like.
possible. I mean, look, between The Fablemans and Disclosure Day, it really feels like you have a filmmaker um having done so much over the course of their lives, finally, yeah, kind of looking at themselves in a way. Like it's almost the last piece of filmmaking he hasn't really explored yet. turning the camera inward. And yeah, so I don't disagree with you at all. I think these last couple of movies are really of that piece where he's finally kind of looking at himself and knowing that his filmmaking career, whatever it is, it's kind of waning now. It's coming to an end. So what does he want to say at the end? And that's what we're looking at. And I think it's beautiful. I think there's something great in that we can really see someone who his entire life has embodied the evolution of filmmaking, and to kind of see them wrapping it up and see what they have to say.
It's pretty fascinating to see someone who clearly, when he started out, I mean, you even hear about him working on, was it Night Gallery that he worked on as a kid? And how he was just, nobody gave him the time of day because he was such a young kid, but he had all these ideas and he just stayed in love with filmmaking. And to see what he's done in the world, I mean, we would not be where we are without him. And cinema would not be cinema in the way it is in 2026 if he didn't exist. He's literally on almost everything, his DNA, whether it's producing, whether it's just an influence. It's really quite remarkable to see someone who loves film so much.
We
And I
absolutely
think
know that J.J. Abrams would not exist if Steven Spielberg didn't
exactly,
exist first. Like it's a
exactly.
1-to-1 ratio. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
with
Yeah,
more lens flares. But I think that's why he gets compared to Scorsese so much, because he's the other guy who clearly has a passion for cinema and has been so impactful. And I just think they're much like Scanlon and Hugo, or
it's like
Daniel
you and
and
me. See,
yes.
Scorsese is just developing the dark side of cinema, and Spielberg is the light. So it's like the two of us, the opposite sides of the coin. There you go.
And that's why I lean towards Scorsese. Although now I'm more, the needle's moving to the middle. So I don't know what to make of that.
That's
Just getting
beautiful.
a
You're
little
one of the
older.
few people who's getting less cynical in their old age. That's wonderful to see. It's so rare.
Yeah, yeah. Well, only with film. Everywhere else, I'm going in the complete other direction.
Yeah.
Almost called the cops on some kids driving e-bikes in my driveway today. So, like, these goddamn kids on their bikes. Uh, I think we know where we're going to land on this, but let's ask our 5 questions before we start. One of them we have to alter for this because it
Yeah.
involves Steven Spielberg. So, which film is more rewatchable to you?
Yeah. Disclosure Day is more rewatchable.
Clearly, I mean, it's not even a competition. Would you want to hang out with anybody from these films?
Jane. I think she's the most.
Jane,
I think she's the most interesting person. I really, like I said, I'm
really?
fascinated by her uh, religious part with the grappling with the aliens thing. I think she's a fascinating human being. I wouldn't mind hanging out with her.
Okay,
Emily
interesting.
Blunt. I mean, those two characters. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm all in hanging out with Margaret. I love her so
Yeah.
much. Like, but only like activated Margaret. I don't know if like career opportunity Margaret prior to the Cardinal coming in is someone I'd want to hang out with. Maybe Wyatt Russell if I had to choose between the two at the beginning. But once she's activated by the bird, I'm all in on her. Hugo too. I think I would love to hang out with Hugo, just
Yeah,
to
I wouldn't
admire
mind
his
hanging out with you.
sweaters.
You're right. He would certainly be an interesting person to sit down and get some stories from. That is true.
I'd think you would want to hang out with him just because of his fashion sense
I mean,
with the sweaters.
it is fair. He did rock a pretty nice sweater. I definitely did clock his wardrobe as I was watching this.
I knew you
So I
would.
disagree with the people who think that he dresses like Spielberg, because Spielberg doesn't dress that
Really?
well. Spielberg doesn't dress that well. We've seen pictures of him. Come on.
A lot of sweaters and turtlenecks, though.
Yeah, he's gotten a little better now in his older age, wearing a little more. His sweater
Yeah.
game has improved. There was a long period of time where Spielberg would not be on anyone's fashion list.
Is this a career peak or valley for anybody involved?
I
Either of
mean,
these.
based on what you're saying, it sounds like a career peak for Emily Blunt.
So far, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Close Encounters. I mean, obviously, it's not a peak for Spielberg. It's not. Although to him, it might be. I mean, to him, that was a movie he had been trying to make. It was the pinnacle of his early career. But no, I mean, Richard Dreyfuss obviously ends up winning the Oscar down the road. Terry
And
Garr does
there's
much more meaningful work than she
yeah,
did in Close Encounters.
there's really nobody else to even consider outside of Richard
No,
Dreyfuss in that movie.
yeah, not really. So
Yeah,
no.
I other than Emily Blunt, and I think she has more things ahead of her that are probably even more dynamic than this. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's really anybody. So here's the question. It's usually if Steven Spielberg had to direct one of these films, which one would it be?
Yeah, well, so
So it
what's your twist on the question? Because I have my own twist on the question, but I figured you'd ask.
feels like the obvious answer is Scorsese, right? I mean, because he's sort of the counter to Spielberg. So
Well, so we used to ask, which of these movies would be better if it was directed by Spielberg, right? So in this instance, would either of these movies be better if someone
if it
other than
were,
Spielberg directed them? Like that's the question, right? Could either of these movies, would they be better without him?
man,
That's the question that I have.
I don't think Close Encounters could be because I don't think any other director in the
Yeah.
70s had that vision.
Right, impossible. Close Encounters is 100% Steven Spielberg movie. No other person
Yeah.
could make that movie except him, especially at that time. You're right. Now, could someone else make Disclosure Day and then made it a better movie? I don't know. If Chris Carter, instead of making the second X-Files movie, made Disclosure Day instead, would it be a better movie? I don't know. Hard to say.
Would Denis Villeneuve be a good person to
Right.
step in here?
I don't know. That's a great question. That I think shows you the evolution of like the sons of Spielberg, because I do think there are other filmmakers that could possibly have made Disclosure Day, or it maybe made it a little bit better, possibly. Not 100%. I don't know for sure, but I definitely feel like it's a possibility. Whereas for Close Encounters, it feels impossible to me.
Would Disclosure Day be better if J.J. Abrams made it? Maybe that's the question.
No, because obviously he would fail at the ending.
Yeah. Too many lens flares. Okay. Again, we both know where we're going to go, but online poll results. What do you think happened here? I'll tell you that we had 42 votes.
Wow.
How do you think they split?
I think like 7. Wow. I think based on the reaction I got from Disclosure Day, I feel like it's like 70-30 Close Encounters.
You're absolutely right. 30-12.
Ow.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, I was surprised. I think as I posted this pretty early, and I think as more people got to see Disclosure Day, they kind of came around to it because it was like 100% Close Encounters for 3 days, and then people started to filter in. So
Yeah, and of course, I mean, the question we have is: are people voting for the Close Encounters they remember seeing, or a movie that they've watched recently? Because yeah, I mean, my memory is Close Encounters is amazing, but you should probably sit and watch it and see what you think now.
or are they just voting against Disclosure Day because
Right.
that's the thing that seems to be in vogue right now? Yeah, so the internet says Close Encounters. If you total up everything that we've said, you and I both agree that it's Disclosure Day. Are you going to stick with that Disclosure Day is the better film for you?
I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I agree. So, fuck off internet. We say, we say Disclosure Day, and that's our winner this week. Much to my surprise, I paired these two thinking Close Encounters. How could it possibly be, fall to second place? But like you said, I was thinking about Close Encounters in my memory of what it was. I wasn't thinking about sitting down and watching Close Encounters. So, yeah, I mean, up on a rewatch, doesn't quite hold up.
Yeah, it's important to do the rewatch.
Yeah. And I have to say that I was telling Laura this the other day. She didn't see Disclosure Day with me, but we're going to go see it again, or I will. And I can't think of another film that, because of the discourse being so divisive, has sat with me and that I've thought about so much in recent memory. I mean, I really spent a lot of time thinking about this because I feel like I was an outlier in what I took away from it and how I felt about it, which I'm fine with. But I even still, after we've talked about it, I mean, it's a little clearer to me kind of what the criticism is since you've kind of enlightened me a little bit, but I still don't get just how much of it there is. And maybe it has to do with my age, maybe it has to do with whatever, but yeah, I'm still a big fan of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Will it hold up a second time? I don't know, but
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to see it.
you tell us next week. I'm curious to know.
Yeah. So what we learned this week is I'm not as dark-hearted as I thought I was, and I'm more of a Spielberg fan than I proposed I was. So
Yep. And what we've learned is that I've always touted my love for Spielberg. It turns out I dislike his most popular movie, or the movie that most people associate with him.
yeah, I agree. Okay, well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. Next week, oh, this is going to be a good one. I know you're kind of dragging your feet going into this one, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow, only half of it.
Yeah, true. Maybe just make up that half. You don't have to watch it. So there's a theory that The Fast and the Furious is just Point Break with cars. And so, of course, we're going to put that to the test and break it down and see if Point Break and The Fast and the Furious are actually the same movie. And I mean, I know one of them is going to be better. I don't think I'm going to have any kind of turnaround on this the way I did Disclosure Day or Close Encounters. I know what the better film is. So I'm calling it now. It's going to be Point Break, but we'll see. Maybe I'll have a change of heart. Maybe I won't. In the meantime, follow us on social media and cast your vote for what you think the better film is. We're at Movie Throwdown Pod everywhere. And yeah, I'm trying to post more interesting things. A lot of physical media that I buy ends up going on there. So check it out and cast your vote and help us determine what the better film is, Point Break or The Fast and the Furious. And we'll let you know where we land next week. So join us then. So long.